Clive Barker Podcast Audio Commentaries.
Thanks to your generous donations to our Kickstarter funding campaign, Clive Barker Podcast presents Fundraiser 3.
Hell on Earth.
All right, well, we're doing Clive Barker's Nightbreed, the director's cut. So if you're following along with us, Jose and I, we have the Blu-ray from Shout Factory. So as you're watching this, we're going to probably see the intro first, and if you're watching it on like Netflix, then you might have we'll have two different start times. So
we'll let you know when we're at the Morgan Creek logo and you can start your movie.
Yeah. I think the Netflix starts right up on the Morgan Creek logo.
Mm-hmm. So cool. It's been a while since I've looked at this movie, ever since the whole Occupy Midian thing.
The last time I saw Nightbreed was with you at the Crest Westwood in California.
Well, there you go. Same here. I mean, I did see one of the work prints. I had that chance, and I got to see one of the work prints that you might have seen at Mad Monster Party. I don't know.
Oh, version 3, I think that was.
No, I watched an actual work print.
Oh,
one of the things
okay.
That Russell used. So anyway.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, like they had it Horror Hound in 2009.
Yeah, that's probably one of the things that they posted, that they screened there. It was completely uncut. Very, very, very long slog.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just that it was everything in the kitchen sink, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Occupy Midian did its job. Everybody did its job. You know, producers and Seraphim did its job, and we finally have the director's cut.
Yeah. All right, so we're on the main menu of the Blu-ray, and we're going to hit play in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, there we go. We got a picture of Clive Barker to start with, so just to make sure we're all sort of on track, or some stills and stuff.
Yeah, it was nice to see this montage of pictures at the beginning of the intro, because some of these I'd never seen before. I'm guessing they were taken from Clive Barker's archives. And there's Mark Miller and Clive looking pretty well, I should say. You know, a little heavier with age, but still looking pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and I think the last time we had seen him before this, his head was shaved, so now he's got his hair back too.
That's right. So if you have the making of the film book, there's a very interesting introduction, a foreword, where Clive Barker kind of hints at the problems that were going on with the movie. Because the opening line is, movies change and change and change. And he says, the images that first play on the screen inside your skull as you set pen to paper are subject to constant configuration. And then he goes on to talk about how, movie, and it seems to be so immutable, but at the same time it's transformed in dozens of stages from its way to screenplay to screen. So it was a troubled production.
And at that time, he couldn't really come out and trash Morgan Creek because the movie was still brand new. So he
That's right.
Later on, he talked more in depth about the problems that he had. But yeah, I think back then he had to just kind of say, hint at that this isn't exactly what I had in mind.
I'm wondering if this book that I'm talking about, the making of the film by Fontana Books, I think this might have come out shortly before the movie came out.
That's what I was thinking too. I was thinking like 89 or something, but...
Yeah, here it says 1990 on the copyright page, but I forgot what month Nightbreed came out.
Was it February 90?
I'm checking it out right now. So let's see. So this intro is about Clive talking to Mark Miller and explaining how the fans and Occupy Midian, and how Mark Miller started looking for the lost footage, which he eventually found.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for that. Otherwise, we'd be watching a very different movie right now.
And now
Yeah,
he's
the
talking
Nightbreed-
about the Cabal cut.
Yeah,
Which I wish more people would pay attention to the fact that the Cabal cut is not the director's cut. They're two different things.
yeah. There's a constant misunderstanding about that.
Yeah.
So Nightbreed premiered in February of 1990. So there you go.
Yeah, right. I win. I don't know what I get.
Yeah.
but-
And I guess this is Clive's balcony in LA.
Hey.
And is that Beverly Hills? That's
Yeah. I think that's the balcony outside of Clive's house rather than his studio house.
pretty
It looks
amazing.
like it. Mark just a minute ago talked about Occupy Midian, which was cool.
Hmm. Yeah, this movie was a very troubled production.
Yeah.
Even though Clive had some problems with some censorship in Hellraiser, he didn't realize that this movie, it would be the backers that would kind of pull the carpet underneath him a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, the more we've been talking about Hellraiser, that when there were reshoots in Hellraiser, it was a good thing. It was because hey, we've got some ideas, to flesh out some ideas that you already had. And so when somebody tells him we want to do reshoots for Nightbreed, he's probably thinking, hey, that's great. This is just like what happened with me in Hellraiser. Sure, why not?
Yeah, like the resurrection scene with Frank and Hellraiser 1. It was a reshoot. It was something that was added to the movie. They were like, oh, we still have some money. Let's do this.
And that was a great addition. And I think some of this reshoot stuff in Nightbreed was nice. I mean, it was good to have, but it also sort of gave them leave to edit the movie into what they wanted it.
I have to confess, I'm not very knowledgeable about what was reshoots in this movie and what wasn't. But I keep hearing that the addition of Shuna Sassy was in the reshoots. I don't know.
I've heard that too, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it makes sense because she's not in the barn at the end.
Right. But
and then the John
wasn't
Agar
in the script,
scene
right?
was all reshoot.
I'm trying to remember if Shuna was in the script. And I don't remember her being in the script.
Yeah, I remember somebody talking about wanting. I think Clive actually drew out some designs for some more monsters, right? And that Shuna Sassy was one of them. And I think like Lude and Leroy Gom were added.
Yes, I mean, actually, Clive started coming up with some of these monsters, along with Jeff Portis and Bob Keane of Image Animation, before he finished the book, before he even wrote the book.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go to the Dark Fantastic,
here we go.
Douglas Winters. Oh, here we go.
Morgan Creek logo is starting right now, so start.
Oh, okay.
For anybody that's following along on Netflix.
Yes.
So
yeah, I was going to say.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that. Clive Barker started before writing Cabal. He started describing the story to Bob Keane and Jeff Portis, and they were working on the designs of the creatures that would make the novel. So,
and I wonder he's a visual person. I wonder if he was thinking of this as a movie as he was writing Cabal.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, you know how Clive works. He has these visions in his mind, and he has to put pen to paper to make them a reality. So it says here that he met with Bob Keane and Jeff Portis as early as '88, and when the book was complete, he and Chris Figg, who was from New World Entertainment, he was an executive, took the project to Joe Roth at Morgan Creek, and that's when they agreed to finance Nightbreed with an $11 million budget, which wouldn't be enough, but that's another story. I love this one.
Yeah. It also came out. It was a lot different from Hellraiser, which I think might have also bothered the people at Morgan Creek, because I mean, even if you just take the Danny Elfman score, it makes it a much different movie than Hellraiser.
Hey, did you see that reference to the Grateful Dead on the wall right there?
Oh, is that what that was for?
Yeah, that's the logo of the Grateful Dead.
Right, I have noticed that, but I just figured it was a coincidence.
Just when you see Steve Hardy's name on the screen, you will see the Grateful Dead logo there. It's funny. This wall was painted by Ralph McQuarrie. It's called the Wall of Prophecy. And unfortunately, there's a story about the ending of this of the shoot. It's that Clive Barker had hoped to be able to preserve some of this. And for those who don't know, Ralph McQuarrie was a designer and an artist, and he did a lot of concept art for movies, including Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so after the shoot was completed, Clive was going to the studio, and he found that they had already started dismantling the set, and someone had taken a chainsaw to the Wall of Prophecy.
Yeah, just to break it up so that it's easier to throw in the garbage.
And he said that he cried his eyes out and yelled and wondered who did this, because he would have just taken that and put it in his own house if he could, you know?
That would have been awesome.
So it's possible that somewhere there's like some movie executive that has a piece of this.
This opening dream sequence is sort of the thing that drew me into Nightbreed in the very beginning. You know, watching it the first time, I'm like, oh my god, what is, you know, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the opening of Hellraiser, where he gives you just a little bit of some crazy supernatural something that you don't quite understand, and you want to see the rest of the movie to know what's going on.
Well, it's a technique that he used also in Hellraiser when he opens the movie with Pinhead and a dismembered corpse on the floor. It kind of shocks the audience into like, you know, oh, it's the hook that drags us into the movie, right?
Yeah, and now we're in the normal stuff here, and you know, it's like later on we're going to figure out what all that's about.
As far as a dream sequence goes, this is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And you know, I think just watching this movie, you'd know, I mean, even if it was the first time, you'd know that even though it's just a dream, that those are real characters and we're going to see them again.
Sure. The beautiful Anne Bobby here.
Yeah.
Who would go on to become a Broadway performer.
Yep. Yeah, and she was in Cop Rock and Born on the 4th of July after this. Or no, maybe that was before this, actually, right?
Cop Rock, maybe before this?
No, I mean, Born on the 4th of July was before this.
Oh, okay, yeah.
With
Is that an Oliver Stone movie?
Yeah, I think it's the one with Tom Cruise where he's in the wheelchair.
Yeah. Very depressing movie. So, you know, here, Boone is not very much like he is in the book.
Yeah.
In the book, Boone is a much more lost kind of soul. And actually not that handsome, although there's some charm to him, but he doesn't really pay a lot of attention to the way he looks. It says here that in the book that sometimes he would go days without showering and shaving, so...
Yeah.
Kind of a funky Boone.
Yeah.
And of course, Laurie's also a little different. I guess that happens with Clive Barker stuff when they translate into movie. He always does some changes to the characters, just like Rory and Kirsty.
Right.
Became Larry and Kirsty, father and daughter, instead of friends.
Yeah.
Here's some new stuff right now.
And the Cenobites were a lot different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love how seamless this is. I mean, you can't even tell that this is footage that, you know, was never in the movie before.
Right. They discovered how many boxes were there? Like 300 or something?
Yeah. But but depending on who you ask, they either didn't have any sound elements or they didn't have enough time to put them in, so they used sound from the Cabal cut.
Right. So they discovered most of the missing footage in celluloid in a deposit thing, right?
Yeah. And when we were talking to Cliff McMillan from Shout Factory, he said, "Oh, you know, it would take forever to go through all that sound stuff, so we're not going to be doing that." Right. You know, about getting like original voices back in and stuff.
Well, I guess we'll leave that one to people who know more about this than we do.
And he told us it wasn't in the budget to add the actors' voices back in, except for what was already done in the Cabal cut. But then Mark had, you know, said, "How come you never told us you knew Catherine Chevalier?" And we're like, "Because we already were told that you weren't going to be adding any more voices in."
Right. It was a great interview with her as well. I mean, Cliff McMillan was on episode 75 for our listeners who want to go back and listen to that. It's a very interesting talk with Cliff.
Yeah.
He's the head of acquisitions of Shout Factory.
And that happened just after the announcement of this movie, getting into production. So we were just learning, the ins and outs of no, it wasn't that. I think it was after they had discovered the footage, right? That we had interviewed him.
Yeah, when they announced that Shout Factory was going to put it together and release it.
There was a second announcement that they had just discovered all the film elements. Because in the beginning it was going to be kind of like the Cabal cut.
For a long time they were thinking about using this process called baking the tape, which would include the VHS work prints, and they would put them in an oven and try to get the image to become better. I never really understood that very well, but because
it makes the stuff flake off the back that came from the film on the
magnetic
other side.
Tape. Yeah. And episode 37 is where we had Catherine Chevalier as well.
Ugh.
A little unknown fact of trivia, or a little unknown bit of trivia, was that the fat lady there, she was actually an opera singer.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And now that we've got this in Blu-ray, you can see the tears on that poor kid's face. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's even creepier.
And also, the sound may seem a little off here, but that's because the sound for these elements was taken from the VHS tape of the work print.
Yeah.
So all this footage, celluloid footage, and I'm going to go with that narrative that we were talking about earlier, was all, what's it called? Motor camera footage only or something like that. It means that it's just the footage. It's just film. It didn't have an audio track. And so they just used the Cabal cut.
They cleaned it up pretty good. I mean, it sounds amazing.
Yeah. Well, the older DVD used to have a 5.1 Dolby Surround track.
Yeah.
And for some reason, this Blu-ray does not have 5.1 Dolby Surround track.
Oh, it's in stereo?
Yeah, it's I think just 2.0. So it could have worked a little more in the mix, but I guess that might have taken more time and money.
It's kind of a philosophical change too, right? I mean, it's kind of like saying we want this to be more like it was in the theaters, maybe.
Oh, I could see that. Sure. I always love the mask collection that Decker has over there.
Yeah, and it played a big part in the book in Cabal. I mean, there was a reason for it, right? But it's kind of just sort of there on the wall, and it's not explained, which is kind of neat. So people that want to learn more about that can go back and read the book.
Yeah. I always like that the villain in Clive Barker movies always have these very sterile environments. It's like Dr. Chenard's house in Hellbound.
Yeah.
Very sparsely decorated, white walls and bland furniture. And same with this office. You know who I think would make a great Decker if they ever brought it back? It would be like Matthew Modine. I've been watching that Stranger Things TV show. Matthew Modine would make a great Decker.
He was the cop, right?
He's the head of a laboratory.
Oh, okay. Yes, right. Got it. Yeah, we watched that.
Kind of looks a little bit.
We watched that whole series. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I'm still watching it. In the book, this scene goes on for much longer, actually a few days, because Decker was trying to trick him into believing that he did those things. So he goes over these murders with him and tries to make him remember all the details by telling him what happened.
It's sort of like a hypnotic suggestion, right? That he's in hypnosis and he's describing all the murders to make him think that he did it.
Yeah, that's right.
So I always wondered in that scene where he says, "Would you like to hear them?" What would happen if he said, "Yes, play it. Let me hear that. Play it for me."
Yeah.
What's on that tape? Probably nothing. It's probably
him
a
talking
bluff, right?
about Midian. He does play a tape with Boone talking about Midian at one point.
Yeah.
But I think he was just bluffing.
And I also wonder what was the point of the hallucinogens.
I guess
why would he give him a bunch of LSD or?
Yeah.
Because there's no guarantee that he's going to wander out into traffic with him.
Well, but if someone tells you that you're a horrible murderer and then gives you something that's going to make you go out of control, who knows what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a shortcut too, because the doctor doesn't just hand you pills; they give you a prescription, and you take it to the pharmacy.
Craig Shepard is tidy whities.
Yeah.
You know, the original Cabal cut footage of the scene did not have this special effect.
Oh, of the fire?
No, the moving ghostly images.
Oh, yeah.
That we see, like things are kind of dragging their image. This was not like this in the Cabal cut. There was just like the normal footage.
Yeah.
But I think they really did a good job with this.
Yeah, it's like they
Mark
put
Miller and Andrew
some kind
Furtado
of
because,
after effect on it.
yeah, and actually makes the scene a little more,
Yeah.
surreal.
Well, and I think it was in '95. I was at a signing with Clive Barker, and I was asking him about the director's cut Laserdisc and when that was going to come out, and what was different about it. And what he said was different was that he had sort of hinted that it had a lot more sex in it, which I guess we're kind of seeing. I guess that's this, right? I had always assumed that he was talking about the jail scene, because in Cabal that was that was like the biggest sex scene in the book.
Yeah. And also in the jail, when they release him Boone from jail.
Yeah.
There's
That's what I mean.
supposed to be a sex scene in there,
Yeah,
which is actually in the comic book adaptation. Oh, yeah, right, okay. Gotcha. Funny thing here, this whole act thing, I think I just saw Nicholas Vince wearing a black cowboy hat.
Oh, yeah, right. I think you're a couple of seconds ahead of me.
Oh, okay. I'll just pause for 5 seconds. And say that also in this crowd that were not in the movie, there was Neil Gaiman, and there were John Skipp, and what's the other guy's
Craig
name?
Spector?
Yeah, Craig Spector. And I think Peter Atkins was in there too.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love the music video that the editor of the director's cut, Andrew Furtado, did, where he made a music video for the song.
Yeah.
And it's on YouTube, and I guess we can probably put that one on the show notes.
Yeah. And I think we've closed out episodes of the podcast with this song a couple of times.
Yeah. And worth noting that Ann Bobby was the one who came up with the name Occupy Midian.
Yeah. Yeah, it was our 8th episode of the podcast in Mad Monster Party, and the first, at the time of the first airing of the Cabal cut, or the first public screening, I guess. And yeah, it was in an interview with her on the Friday before they had shown the movie. Craig Sheffer said, if this doesn't get put on DVD, people are going to get upset and occupy Morgan Creek. And Ann Bobby said, Occupy Midian. And she goes, actually, that's a really good idea. I get 10%.
I think you recorded that, right?
Yeah, that's our episode number 8.
Excellent.
So that's where, if anybody was wondering where that name came from, that's where it is. Although she kind of repeated it later in a couple of more times, like once at the bar with all the, with the Russell and Mark and stuff, and another time to the crowd at the screening, and each time kind of said it like it was the first time. Yeah.
And obviously that put the gears working in Russell's head, and by the time he reached the bar, he was buying the domain on his phone.
Yeah. So he had bought the domain name, and I talked to you and Roger, and we got the Facebook group and the petition started.
I didn't sleep at all that night. That was just such an exciting night. It's like he got back and we were talking, and we're like, "Oh, come on, let's do this, and let's make this group." And we started adding all the people that we knew to that group, and that just kind of took off from there.
I remember my brother yelling or getting really mad at me. "Don't add me! I'm getting all these email notifications now every time there's a message."
Yeah. I think that happened to a lot of people at the beginning. The numbers were kind of floating a little bit because there were so many people getting added. And then, Facebook was also a little different at the time. And so you would get all these notifications every time someone wrote in the group.
Yeah. Does Facebook even do that anymore, where they send you an email every time you get a comment
No,
or
I think you can customize that now.
I
So,
took that away a long time ago, and I don't. I mean, it seems like old fashioned now.
yeah, they keep changing things. Did you notice that in the scene where he's hit by the truck, they added it in a little bit with Boone wearing a black T-shirt from the dream sequence?
Oh,
Yeah, they did that. Like, he looks at the headlights, and then there's this insert of, like, Boone in the middle of, like, a misty area.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they inserted that in.
So he
had a
little bit of a hallucination there.
Yeah. Here's Hugh Ross,
Yeah.
which I'm sure looked very different without that fake hairpiece. Great actor. Great actor.
Yeah.
We interviewed him on the podcast once. Unfortunately, I was not in the best condition to be a good interviewer.
Right.
And I had just come back from like a stag party, like for one of my friends was getting married. And I think I got home like 20 minutes before we were supposed to have him on. And I just was not in a condition to have a conversation. I guess I was...
Do you still have your King Rocker shirt?
Yeah, I do. I only wore it like once, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I wear mine sometimes, but since it's white, there's always the fear of getting junk on it. Of course, it looks like Narcisse didn't care about getting his dirty.
God, he looks like he's just a bum.
Yeah, look how greasy he is, too. I mean, now that we have this in high definition.
Yeah. I really wish that that the actual design of that T-shirt came out again, because I would totally buy it, especially if it was that big. Like that's a pretty big print on the T-shirt. The actual T-shirt that came out from the Occupy Midian website was kind of smallish.
Yeah. Oh, so what do you think happened to Boone when he got hit by the truck? Because it looks to me like he just got some road rash on his forehead.
Maybe just got bumped to the side of the road. Maybe.
Yeah, he got out of it pretty unscathed.
Yeah. He was lucky.
Yeah.
And so outside the window there was a glass painting, I think.
Oh, really?
I think so, yeah. Like the guy who did the glass paintings for this movie, I think this was from the Shout Factory extras. Mm-hmm. They were talking about how he did little things to make it more realistic. Like he would just wave his hand in front of the light behind the glass painting, so the light in the clouds would kind of flicker a little bit.
Oh,
and
that's
it would
cool.
Look like, yeah. Excellent special effects. I think I'm a little ahead of you because the doctor is holding him down after he took his head off.
Yeah, no, I've got Decker walking down the hallway right now.
Okay.
And he hasn't screamed yet. And now there's that... This is where in the theatrical cut there was a woman scream, and they took it out. They took it out because they thought it was weird because it was, it sort of implies
shrill.
that it was Narcisse screaming, but it was really like a nurse or something. And
that never really bothered me because I always thought it might have been a nurse or another patient in the ward that saw what was going on.
I did think it was Narcisse. I just thought it was just this unearthly screech. But
right. So this is where the Boone's travel begins.
So I always wondered there. He says, he's dying. I think he wants to die. So is he a Nightbreed right now, or is he Nightbreed later? And what makes him the way he is?
Yeah, well, that's tricky, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
because in the book it was a little more straightforward. But the idea of having the tribes of the moon be like united genetically or something,
yeah,
that opens up a can of worms, in my opinion.
Right.
I mean, for example, Boone wasn't necessarily a member of the Nightbreed, right? He's more like a messiah. And Laurie's human.
Right, and Boone at this point is still human, but he's
Yeah.
got a calling, sort of.
Yeah, and it's like, I think it works better if you don't think of it as like something that they're inhuman, but more like something that being part of the tribes of the moon is like more like a choice, or for the outcasts.
Yeah.
That not necessarily inhuman, human as well, but in this movie, I think it works when they make it inhuman.
Yeah.
But it's weird that Boone and Laurie are human at the beginning, and then they turn.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful glass painting there again.
Yeah. I think, did you notice how much Boone drives down the center of the road and on the left side and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was he doing?
I don't know. I guess he's, who knows? Maybe he hasn't been sleeping or eating or drinking.
Yeah.
But I'm sure those roads have practically zero traffic.
Yeah. Monkey head.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, so they had stolen some of these, right, from the Batman set?
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Because this was recorded in Pinewood Studios, and at the time they were also doing in the set next door Tim Burton's Batman. So they kept the effects team kept stopping by that office and try to, take a look at what they were doing and the techniques they were using, and so they could also.
Well, and they had also thrown stuff into the dumpster, and they were trying to. Sometimes they got caught, and sometimes they were able to steal things out of the dumpster to bring over to use on Nightbreed.
Right.
That's why there's like gargoyles in the middle of that cemetery.
They didn't want them reusing that because they didn't want people to say, "Oh, this thing in Batman is also in Nightbreed."
Yeah. Well, I never knew it up until this that Batman was filmed in England.
Right. Pinewood.
Yeah.
And
You would never know watching it.
Yep. And there's Onaka, played by Simon Bamford.
Yeah. And Frank the dog.
Yes. We found that name thanks to Ann Bobby, I think, and Simon Bamford when we talked to them.
And there was that scene where Frank was supposed to run and jump into his arms, and they had to redo it like 100 times.
Yeah, and he had to rub bacon grease and sausages down his pants so the dog would walk up to him.
Yeah,
that's animal training for you. I was reading from the Dark Fantastic. It says here that Richard Martin, who was the original editor in this, and Clive Barker, they flew to Hollywood to meet with the studio representatives. But then when they got there, they learned that their revision of Nightbreed, which incorporated new scenes but also at Fox demand, had been shortened from 2.5 hours of the original director's cut to 2 hours.
At Fox's demand?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Huh.
Should be subjected to further radical surgery. Fox demanded that the film be pared down to 90 minutes, with the plot focused on Decker, not the Nightbreed. And then Martin told Morgan Creek, "I don't want to be a part of this. Send me back to England."
Wow.
And that's when they brought in Mark Goldblatt to edit the movie to 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You can find an interview with Mark Goldblatt on the Shout Factory Extras.
Well,
He's a little defensive about it, but
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that, Morgan Creek has been sort of solely to blame for this, for this butchering of Nightbreed ever since the beginning up until, recently.
Mm-hmm. But Fox was the distributor, I guess,
Yeah.
so they also had some say in the final cut.
Yeah. Yeah, so they helped ruin the movie. And probably Morgan Creek I would imagine that Morgan Creek kind of rolled over and just went along with whatever they said, but...
Sure, because otherwise their movie wouldn't be distributed, right?
Yeah.
So, awesome scene here, introduction to Peliquin, fan favorite, who was played by Oliver Parker.
So, where I'm at right now, he just got bitten and they're running.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same here. And there's Kinski talking to Peloquin.
Yeah, and the drummer.
I saw pictures of how they shot some of these scenes that we're going to see here when Boone is opening his jacket, and everything starts spinning around, and you see like the walls closing in. That was actually a small miniature set.
Oh, wow.
Where there were like tombs sculpted in forced perspective, and they were like hanging over the camera, and then they were just had a rig, and they just rotated the camera around that. I think that picture was shown to me by Julian Perry, who was one of the one of the special effects supervisors in this movie.
I'd always kind of wanted to go back and talk to more of the people in the production side of Nightbreed, but we just did so much Nightbreed that we were neglecting everything else, you know.
Yeah.
For the podcast, I mean.
I know what you mean. We kind of got a little burned down on Nightbreed.
Yeah.
But it would be great if someone made a documentary for this movie like they did for Hellraiser.
Yeah.
You know, like Leviathan.
Yeah. And I think there's more interesting stuff to say about it because of the whole Occupy Midian movement.
Mm-hmm. Well, not to just the release of Shock Factory. There's plenty of the making of feature there is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
true.
It's a wonderful making of feature with Bob Keane and everything.
Yeah.
They just didn't have a chance to include people like Jeff Portas, and I think he would have a lot to say about this. And other people who were not in America. He could just be so sympathetic and then just turn like that into like a villain. It's just, I love Cronenberg's performance in this.
Yeah.
I didn't hurt anyone.
I believe you. They started firing before Decker even got out of the way.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And you can see where all the bullets hit him in high definition now too.
Jesus Christ, at least let me get out of the way.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that could have backfired on him.
Breed lives matter.
Yeah.
Dude.
You know, and,
so,
Jennifer is a therapist, and that was something was bugging me about Decker's office is that his clients sit in a chair and he still sits behind his desk. I mean, that's not really the way they do it. They usually have two chairs facing each other.
Oh, okay.
Because it's sort of a
Boone is also kind of like just doing whatever he wants. He's sitting wherever he wants. He's playing with sculptures.
Well, that's true. But I mean, well, and maybe that wasn't even a session. It was just really, I need to talk to you about something.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of looks like Planet of the Apes in that scene there.
Oh, when the camera's like panning up?
Yeah, his face looked like a...
That bracelet on Laurie's wrist right there.
Oh,
that silver bracelet, it was given to her by her mother. And
really?
She wore it in Nightbreed. And when I talked to her at Burlingame, the Convolution convention, we had an Occupy Midian on location where I talked to her and Russell. She was wearing that same bracelet, and she showed it to me. It's like, oh, this is the same bracelet I wore in Nightbreed.
That's
it was
cool.
given to me by my mom. It still had the price tag on the inside of it. I have to say, this interrogation room here seems to be very, very dark, for no reason.
Yeah. I kind of wish they had left all the stuff in where she gets in the fight with Joyce in here.
Oh, she was supposed to get in a fight with Joyce?
Yeah, they argue. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Oh, you're talking about the book, right?
Or no, in the Cabal cut, like she tells him to go to hell.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that didn't make it in, which a few people got a little upset. They were like, oh, but this doesn't have, like, for example, there was a choice not to include footage of Decker talking to the mask, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that and also Laurie's connection to Babette was taken out.
Yeah, that telepathic link that they had.
Yeah.
It was complicated and tricky because, like you said earlier, Catherine Chevalier played Rachel, and she's living in England right now, I think. And so they didn't have the time or money back then to get her voice in, so they used someone else's voice, like Crazy Coffee Lady, according to Aunt Bobby. Someone who used to do like the voice for some coffee commercials.
And now
that's why her voice is raspy.
And now in this movie, there are 3 different people doing Rachel's voice, because we've got Catherine Chevalier in some parts, and the Crazy Coffee Lady in some parts, and then Vicky Barker, Clive's nephew's wife.
Okay. So it was very much done in-house, like this whole director's cut. I mean, it was done with Mark Miller and Andrew Furtado. He was the editor, and he has an editor's journal where he, in his website, where he indicates all the notes that he got from Clive every time they would do something and show it to Clive, and he would say, change this, change that.
Yeah. So he was really involved. I mean, he wasn't right there in the editing room, because of his health, but he was really involved as much as he could.
Yeah. I think I took Furtado a little bit to task when we interviewed him in episode 81.
About some of the choices.
Yeah. But, once they say, hey, Clive told us to do it this way, there's really nothing you can say.
And that is a lot of square footage for a secret room.
Mm-hmm. I always wondered what was in the background. It looks like a guy with blood coming down of his face.
And is it the same picture over and over again?
Yeah, I think it is.
I like how he can't even smash the tape recorder. It still keeps on playing anyway.
Yeah, those things could last a while.
Yeah.
I used to have a micro cassette recorder. It was really hard to find the micro tapes for it.
Oh, yeah.
They were expensive.
Yeah, and they would only last like 15 minutes a side or something.
Here's one of the few pieces of footage that was shot in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, that was another thing that sort of came out to the foreground during Occupy Midian, is like, actually, most of this movie was not filmed in Canada at all. It was all, almost all UK.
Yeah.
Even stuff like this, and they just got a lot of American and Canadian expatriates to play the to play all these characters.
Sure. So the original budget of $11 million for this movie ended up being exceeded, like I was saying, and according to some sources, the final budget totaled well over $20 million. $20 million for the movie.
20 times the budget of Hellraiser.
Yeah. You can kind of see it.
Yeah.
Because there's like 200 different makeup designs and 200 monsters in the movie.
Yeah.
That didn't come cheap.
And, does this bar look like the same set that they had for when she was singing Johnny Get Angry? I mean,
sure.
Now she's in the bathroom, but...
I'm not sure. It could be.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense to reuse it. That's a really sympathetic character.
Yeah.
I wish she had more screen time.
Cheryl Ann she's really sad.
Well, it looks like she's a smart gal, but she lives in a podunk town, so there's not really much of a future for her there.
Yeah.
That's the vibe that I get from Cheryl Ann. Like she would really like to find someone who would treat her right and take her away from what is it supposed to be? Sheer Neck?
Yes, right, Sheer Neck.
I don't even know if that's a real place.
No, it's not. Dwyer is real.
Yeah. My dad worked for a while in Peace River.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did. He worked on a construction site there as a manager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I wish that we saw a little more of Cheryl Ann.
Yeah. Well, there is a little more in the Cabal cut. There's a scene where they're leaving to head out to Midian, and she's like, "Oh no, wait, I need to stop for some aspirin," because she had a hangover.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
And I think that's not in this. I mean, it's sort of superfluous, but I always liked all those little extra bits.
Mm-hmm.
And she's sort of so desperate to find somebody that, to sort of take her away from her boring life that,
Nice denim outfit.
Because it seems like Curtis, I guess, is, I don't know, Curtis the banker probably wouldn't be super believable.
Yeah. Yeah. I see your point. Oh, and here we have this awesome sequence where we go underground.
Yeah.
It's weird that they have like a mummy there.
Yeah, and it's like a weird sort of cross section. Like they just tunneled, or I guess it was Baphomet that made Midian, right? He just tunneled straight down and cut through bodies and caskets and stuff.
Well, I always saw this as more like a cut, but just for the audience to see that we're going down under the ground.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if that was supposed to be...
Yeah,
maybe
right, like a cross-section, but it's not really yeah.
Like when they go from one room to the other and we cut through the wall.
Yeah.
We know it's a set, but it's supposed to be a house. So I think that was what they were trying to do here.
Do you think that it's confusing to see this movie for the first time and go, why is Boone alive? No, probably not. I mean, everybody knows about werewolves and stuff.
Well, we do see the special effects on his wounds and stuff, and his muscles start moving.
That's true, and his escape from the hospital is sort of implied, or from the morgue. I mean,
it would have been very comedic to show him naked, like jumping out of the window with like his jacket and There's Shuna Sassy, Christine McCorkindale, which was also she was also on our podcast.
Yeah, with Michael Plumides.
Yeah. She was a dancer, and there's a lot of roll B footage of her dancing and stuff, and with Peliquin in the extras of the Shot Factory release.
And it's nice. Awesome, it's nice hearing Doug Bradley's voice.
Yeah, and we have to thank Russell Charrington for that, because he was the guy who, being friends with Doug Bradley, he got him into like a studio room when he was doing the Cabal cut, and he said, well, let's do Doug Dub. And so they did the Doug Dub, where they redubbed some of these scenes.
Yeah. So 90% of Lylesburg's voice in the director's cut is Doug Bradley, but there is a little bit that's still the German guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that was something that Doug Bradley always mentions in interviews, that his explanation why some of the characters were overdubbed. He says, and I quote, this is going to be explicit, but some fuckwit producer obviously fell out of bed one day and thought, hey, Lylesburg, he's German. And that's the reason why they got this German accent.
Yep, and Rachel looks like a gypsy, so I'll make her talk like that.
Yep.
Yeah, just stereotypical crap.
So this seems like it was something that most breed would go through, like to become like part of the tribe, right? Yeah. It's like being anointed or something. It's like a Holy Communion kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and apparently that I mean, if somebody's not worthy, right? Does that blood just kills them?
Hopefully, I guess.
I don't know.
Gooble gobble, one of us.
Yeah. I have never seen that movie. I've been meaning to.
Oh, the Freaks?
Freaks, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Todd Browning directed it.
It was an inspiration for Cabal and this movie.
Yeah, it takes place in a carnival with the Freaks. I think you can see some of the guys in the bar last night and today, like the guy in the background, I think they're wearing like those rodeo hats.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. There was in the book. It's very different. The whole scene with Curtis revealing himself to
Right,
Cheryl
it's
Ann.
in an abandoned house.
Yeah, it's like he sets a date for like this restaurant, and they get there, and the restaurant is boarded up.
Yeah, yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
So here they just skipped over the aspirin scene.
I think this makes a lot more sense that it would happen in Midian.
Yeah, right. Yeah, cinematically, it just moves the story forward a little more. But that was creepy. I mean, to she gets there and it's an abandoned restaurant, and Cheryl Ann's kind of like, is this a joke? Why are we here?
Oh, another thing is we do have some of the original drafts of the script for this, and I was looking at the making of the film book. Comes with a draft of the script that might have confused fans for a long time because the script is closer to this version now than it was to the theatrical. And Shuna Sassy is in this version of the script.
Oh, okay.
This might have been like one of the last drafts that they published here. But also in some of the original drafts, Onaka, for example, was supposed to be a woman.
Right.
And then they changed it to have Simon Benford. It's pretty. I always loved cemeteries. I mean, in America, you guys have more. Your cemeteries are a little more into the whole garden thing with like the slabs on the floor instead of being like graves that are built from the ground up, like in Europe.
Yeah, and ours aren't as old, obviously.
Right, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, even my hometown has old. What do you call them in English? When they build like a mausoleum.
Yeah.
Right? A mausoleum. Where you have the little door, and then you look inside, and you see all the coffins are like sealed shut and put in little shelves inside, and then it's got the name of the family on the outside, and most of those are made out of granite, looking like little chapels.
Yeah. So at this point in the movie with Decker, are we? I mean, do we know that he's for sure the killer? I think probably we have a good idea.
I think. For sure, we know that he's not innocent in this, that he's trying to pin it on Boone, and I'm sure that people just do the math and think he's probably the killer.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, you only have to look at Cronenberg wearing that large overcoat, and it's like, just put the mask on him, it's the same guy.
So they blame Boone for the the fall of Midian, but you could say that this Rachel telling her to bring Babette over could also that could also be part of the problem.
Oh, I think that is the problem right there. If Babette hadn't been playing in the sun, none of this would have happened. Laurie would have just taken off, after being there, and
she would have just exactly. Laurie would have just gone, okay, well, I saw it, and go back to her car and probably gotten killed by Decker, and that would have been the end of it.
Yeah, and Boone would have never noticed that because that she would have been long gone from Midian.
Yeah.
It's I remember there was a guy from Australia. He was one of the guys who was involved with the screenings, and I'm not talking about Steve Dillon. I'm talking about Brian Craddock, who was also one of the authors in Midian Unmade anthology. Came out. He made a replica of Babette for the screening there in Sydney, Australia.
Right.
Yeah, there were lots of people taking photos with it and posting it up on Occupy Midian. It was nice to see that.
Yeah. I think people forget that the Cabal Cut toured all over the world, not just the U.S. and England.
Yeah, there were like, 40 screenings or something?
Yeah. All over Europe, and then there was Mexico and Canada and Australia. Was there Japan, or I think they just were talking about it? I can't remember.
I don't think they did Japan.
Yeah.
Germany, Italy, France, Paris.
Yeah.
There was a big Empire Magazine sponsored screening in London.
Yeah, and the light box in Canada, and I think was David Cronenberg at that one.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either. No, well, no, because we had a recording of it, and we didn't have anything with David Cronenberg.
Right. So Babette, there were two twins who played Babette.
Yeah.
Which I guess is useful because that way, if there's limitations on the number of hours a kid can work, then if you have twins, you can just replace them with the next twin.
Swap them out, yeah.
Yep. And I think one of them was, I remember hearing from the effects team that one of them was very quiet and she was real easy to put makeup on. And the other one was a little more restless.
I always wonder how parents tell their kids apart when they're twins.
No, there's all sorts of like little things that they'll notice. I think it's creepy when they dress them up to look the same and make their hair to look the same. That's a little creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, well, and they're making it even harder to tell. They should give them different haircuts.
Sure, yeah, that's an easy way. I mean, I'm not going to go in a tangent here, but it's like, what about when they're born in the hospital? How are you sure that that one was going to be twin number 1 and that's twin number 2?
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when they gave them the names, like, how do you know which one was originally given that name? And
I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But this scene here, Lylesburg in the book was supposed to be very different. He was more of a mysterious guy who kind of controlled the shadows.
Yeah, and I think he was supposed to be sort of like cool and more badass than what he is
like
in the movie.
More, instead of being like a monk.
Yeah. Yeah, and now he's an old guy that threatens everybody and, makes him feel guilty for not breaking the law. Yeah,
as far as characters goes, he's not very likable.
Yeah.
He's very hesitant.
Yeah.
It's like he's supposed to be the leader, but there's moments when he should be leading his people, and he just seems like he locks down. He doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, he's only a leader in making people not get into trouble. That's like.
Suspense is killing me.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's got a knife right down into her spine and one pinning her hand up on the tree.
So for those who don't know, Simon Saysy, who we've talked about recently in the podcast, he kind of helped design the Decker mask.
Yeah.
He's also the same guy who made the Hellraiser box,
which is pretty iconic, and for there's a lot of fans of Nightbreed that are in it for the slasher character, and they love Decker.
Mm-hmm. Sure, just like people love Michael Myers and Jason.
Right.
He does appear a lot, and especially on the pictures on DeviantArt of people making like they make this image with like Jason and Pinhead and oftentimes the Dr. Decker will be there as well.
Yeah. I always think it's funny when they're like, which one would win? And they'll have like Decker and Leatherface and Pinhead and Michael Myers. They're like, well, a couple of these are just people that are crazy.
Yeah. And in Duels of Blood, Decker was defeated by Cabal.
Yeah, that's right.
Very appropriate.
Yeah. So in the Cabal cut, the last couple of versions, this had screwed up sound, this scene.
Yeah, one of the voices went down in pitch, I think.
Yeah.
It was like slowed down.
Yeah, Boone was like, he's gonna butcher her.
Yeah. It was weird.
Yeah, and and in that scene, obviously they gave up on using that sound because they went back to the theatrical cut scene instead of using the scene from the Cabal cut.
Minor peeve of mine is that the knife that Decker's holding in this scene seems to be really old and looks, oxidized and
Oh, you mean the
big
one
one?
he stabbed him with, or the big one?
No, the big one.
Yeah.
But then when he is fighting Joyce, when the attack on Midian begins, that knife is so clean and so sharp. It
Yeah.
really looks like it's sharp. This one just looks like it's made out of rubber or something.
Yeah.
Narcisse's face was supposed to be the thing that he would rip out instead of his scalp in the book, but I think that would make it weirder for the actor.
Yeah. And
So I
Clive
guess
Barker thought it was sort of nice to do a reverse Frank, where he ripped off everything else but his face.
One of the original designs for this, and I think you can see it also in the extra features, but we saw it on Occupy Midian when some effects people were posting pictures of their archives, was that one of the original designs for Narcisse had the skin under his skin be scaly and green.
Yeah.
Like a lizard, like he would actually be some kind of monster underneath his skin.
Well, and he was an actor because he was pretending to be human in Cabal.
Yeah, yeah. That would give his character a completely different dimension that I think would have been interesting.
And you could also argue that the fall of Midian is Narcisse's fault for creeping out
Rory.
Yeah.
And preventing Boone from catching. I think, wasn't there like a scene, I think it's either in one of the work prints or something, that keeps popping up. There's a still photography of Boone catching up to Decker and having his fist out like he's going to punch him.
Yeah.
And I think that scene was shot. I think I remember seeing that in the work print.
Yeah.
But they didn't include it here.
Yeah, I love that they put this scene in.
Mm-hmm.
Where they explain what Baphomet is. There was more.
His blood is volatile.
Yeah, right, and that he's a statue, but.
The only thing I don't like is it makes it look like Boone can just hop along from when he's talking to Lylesburg down to the Tabernacle, and then when we see Laurie do it, you have to go all the way down through Midian.
Yeah, that's right. He just sort of teleported over to Baphomet as soon as his name got mentioned.
Yeah.
Kind of smells like your head.
Yeah. You know, they have to work with what they had. So it's not like this was done like a year after where they could have just gone back and maybe have some reshoot or something.
People had a lot of fun decorating this guy's shack.
Yeah. That's a lot of junk there.
I know. Well, and what is this place supposed to be? He's got a cash register. Is this a gift shop or something? It doesn't look like it's anything. And he's got like
a bait shop / fuel place.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like for fishing stuff. Like he's wearing like a fishing hat, right?
Yeah, and there's like a little rubber frog with no head on his hat.
I remember my parents having those little cocktail plastic forks that he had.
Yeah, you showed me one of them, I think.
Yeah, I have one that's just like that thing. It's just like that thing. And it came from Canada, too, so it must have been like something that was popular.
And all those weird dolls hanging upside down, and he's got Christmas lights for no reason.
Yeah. Hey, the Christmas lights now remind me of that episode in Stranger Things.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that show gets really good by the end, too.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't. It actually seems like it's wrapped up. Like they may not come back to it, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. You know, behind there's a part where he's walking around, and I see like there's a cross, and there's like one of those host receptacles that you see in churches that look like a sign. Yeah. I have a skull, a plaster skull that was used in Midian.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh.
I bought it at eBay, but unfortunately, being a plaster skull, it broke.
Oh.
So I had to glue it back together, and But hey, it's just a curiosity.
That's cool. Is it in Portugal?
Yes. It's still there.
So now she's got her crazy coffee lady voice.
Yeah, because this scene, I guess it was hard to change it to the Catherine Chevalier voice.
Yeah.
That would have required more editing that probably they didn't have time. Do you remember how long they worked on that director's cut. I think it might have been like a couple of months.
Yeah, it was like 2 months, I think.
Yeah.
I would have been okay if they took longer, but I mean, I guess it's money.
Also, I guess they kind of announced that it was going to be released by
Halloween.
Halloween or something.
Right, because they started on it in July, I think.
So they kind of pushed themselves into a corner with that announcement, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and they didn't start editing until they found the footage, which was sometime later.
Yeah, so they had to go back to square one.
Yeah.
Well, here's what Clive Barker said to Douglas Winter only weeks after the film's release. He was saying, I labored for a year to put this movie on the screen. In my painting and my writing, I am in complete control of what I do. In movies, I'm giving myself over to people over whom I have no power whatsoever. When I started making movies with Hellraiser, I did it to get power over the product. I had seen people like Stephen King and Ray Bradbury have wonderful books turn into really terrible movies, and I wanted to stop that for myself. Now I'm more secure in the fact that the books will last. I'm going to have to live with other people making them into movies and get on with what I want to do. You know, in some ways, this movie almost ended Clive Barker's directing career, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that he went on to make Lord of Illusions.
Yeah.
Because that was a good movie.
And he was a producer for Lord of Illusion, so he was able to stop people from screwing with it.
And he got himself final cut in his contract,
Yeah.
at least for like the laser edition.
Yeah. For the director's cut was really what lived. You know, it's got a lot more people seeing it.
Yeah. After this, I mean, it says here that he was not in great shape, but I felt like I'd lost it. I felt like I had lost the battle. It was the worst creative time in my life. I felt like there was so much more I could have achieved, and so many things which were getting between me doing that. Some of them were my own making, some of them not. And it just goes on and on and on. But I remember particularly when Mark Miller from Seraphim told us that he had given Clive a copy of the Nightbreed movie to sign or something, and he said, you know, it's the first time I don't feel bad about having to sign this.
Oh.
You know? That felt really nice to hear.
Yeah, I was one of those people that must have made him feel bad then.
Well, you didn't know.
Yeah. He signed my Laserdisc.
And it's still a great movie. I still have a lot of room in my heart for the theatrical edition.
Yeah. Well, and hats off to Shout Factory for putting it on Blu-ray. That's awesome.
Yep.
So that's the one, you know, it's a limited release. There were only 10,000 copies, but, you know, there's an opportunity for people that really love Nightbreed to get the theatrical cut.
Right.
Yeah. So I wonder if this scene was added in just because the producers wanted to focus more on Decker and that the fact that he's like a slasher. So they wanted to give him...
Sounds accurate.
Yeah.
I would say yes.
At least it does fit into the plot, like he's trying to learn more about the Nightbreed.
Yeah.
So which voice does he have here? Let's see. He's like, yep, you're right. I'm not going to try to stop you.
And Onaka here is like, I'm not going to let you go through. Okay, you can go through.
Yeah.
It's like they're afraid of Lori. I guess she represents like the natural world.
Yeah. Except
And
Peliquin's not afraid of her.
Right. Got some stop motion animation here.
Yeah, and so this scene got re-edited. So it's interesting to see what people, you know, different interpretations of how they did the music. Because the music was so well timed to the theatrical edition of the movie, and they didn't get any new music. So, like in the Cabal cut, they just kind of like put loops and stuff. I think, right?
Yeah, for a lot of it. Yeah. Especially the new footage, because the new footage from the work prints doesn't have any music.
Yeah.
So Russell and Jimmy Johnson had to
They made loops
improvise.
out of the CD soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Mexico. Did you see his
You know
head
what?
leaning over in the background there?
Oh, yeah.
I never noticed that before. And there is a parrot.
Yeah. I wonder if that was Clive's parrot.
Yeah.
Didn't he have a... Oh, look, there's a Diodaria.
Yeah. Right, and Mezikmul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has a parrot named Malingo, but I don't know how old that parrot is. I think he got that parrot before Abarat, but I don't know how long before.
Oh, okay, I see. Because that would make sense because he named it Malingo.
Yeah.
I wonder which came before, the character or the parrot.
I think the parrot. This is weird, too. Why are these eels eating just blood? I guess they're Nightbreed eels.
You could argue that, I guess, yeah. Because eels are bottom feeders.
Yeah.
Just dripping blood into it, that's not nutrition for them. I always thought this part of the movie is where the movie kind of turns into, like, Wonderland.
Yeah.
The whole way that Laurie is moving downwards into the city. It's
Like going through the going down through the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Nope. Scorpions. She must be in Arizona.
Yeah.
Man, I can't even tell you how many scorpions I've had to pick up out of the house and throw them outside.
Oh wow. It's kind. I guess you'd get used to it like spiders. I guess.
Yeah. That's a cool looking character.
We don't really have much of anything that's poisonous here. We have the brown recluse spider, is it? But it's
In
not
Alaska.
really. Yeah. Of course, people can get trampled by a moose. And there was some guy like mauling a corpse in the background there.
Yeah, we had pictures of that in Occupy Midian. That one of the guys who was one of those creatures, he posted some pictures
There
of
he is
behind the
again.
scenes and stuff. That guy just exists to be mistaken by Boone.
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
only purpose of that.
But when he turns around, he's the Toxic Avenger.
Yeah. I think when he gets in her face after he sticks that thing in his chest, it's like he looks really intimidating.
Yeah.
Damn. Harlequin is one of the best characters in the whole movie.
You have to wonder what all these guys eat and how do they live? What do they do? I mean, they just can't just sit around in Midian all the time.
Well, if you read the Nightbreed Chronicles, and I know you have that copy of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those creatures. Like there's one supposed to be what's the name of it? It's like this. It's green, and then it's got these like bumpy things all over her skin, and it's rumored that she lives in Midian and she hugged the last of her tribe, and so she thinks that the cells of the last of her tribe are still on her skin, so she's never bathed or moved from that spot ever since, and she thinks that when she dies, her whole species will sprout again from her body.
Oh.
And that's the kind of stuff that Clive Barker writes in the Night Chronicles that I just think it's pure gold.
I love that Eigerman has a portrait of himself in his office.
Yeah, a giant one.
Yeah.
This great Narcisse moment here. Oh, I think I'm ahead of you again.
Yeah, and Laurie's just walking down the steps right now.
Okay. You may not be good looking, but you'll do fine.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you interview actors that were doing this scene, you get like conflicting stories sometimes.
Yeah.
And this happened also in Leviathan, like with Claire Higgins talking about some things, and then
Oh yeah.
Ashley Lawrence saying that's not how I remember it happening. But
Yeah.
I remember we were talking to Simon Bamford, I think, and he told us that there were maggots inside the mouth of that fake corpse.
Yeah.
And then I think Hugh Ross said, "No, there were no maggots in there."
Yeah.
And so it's like, who are you going to believe? Well,
Yeah.
Hugh Ross, obviously, because he
Well,
was the
and
one doing the scene.
there was a conflicting story about the death of Onaka, right? Between what Ann Bobby said and what Simon Bamford said.
Yeah, like the explosion. Someone said that there were like dust-filled condoms in the back, and then there were the explosives, and that blew up and made all the dust. But then we talked to someone else, and they said, "Oh no, that was just a mannequin." And I took a screenshot of one of the frames in the movie, and you can definitely tell it's a mannequin.
Oh yeah, when it switches from Simon to the mannequin. So he says Ghost and Slaughter, right?
Mm-hmm. I think Ghost is the white one.
Yeah. Oh wait.
Shine? Slaughter?
Oh. This way. So that's not Simon's voice either, right?
I'm not sure. I thought it could be.
And I don't. Sometimes with these people didn't even watch the movie, or so that you ask them and they don't really know.
That's a good point.
Like Simon didn't watch the movie. He said for like 15 years after the premiere.
Well, I'm not surprised because he couldn't play it on the UK equipment that he had, like a UK DVD player, because there was no Region 2 DVD.
Well, there was
a video for the longest time.
There was a videotape, but was it only a rental version?
I guess
not a mass market.
Could have been something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they really dropped the ball. I mean, geez, for Fox, wanting to be the distributor, they sure screwed up.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Other movies have had the same sort of problems, like Hellraiser 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I mean, there's countries where 3 never came out, like England.
Yeah, it's like if you're going to demand that they change the movie and make it, the way you want, then at least do a good job distributing it.
Yeah.
Well, and also the DVD was not very good. I mean, the factoids that they put for the bonus feature a lot of them were wrong. Like they said Clive Barker directed Candyman.
Yeah. It was a very bare bones edition. I mean, when they list a trailer as part of the special features, you know that it's not going to be there's not going to be a lot to go by.
Yeah.
Oh, this scene is so bad.
Like, don't even close the gate.
This scene with Arnie.
Oh yeah, didn't we talked about this before that we discovered, or I think I had seen that she was an actress in what is that TV show with the bikers? Now I can't think of it. It's a recent TV show, and she was the boss for one of the characters.
Oh, okay.
Oh gosh, what is that show?
Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah, Sons of Anarchy. She's an actress in Sons of Anarchy.
There you go. Funny thing, I'm going through the script at the same time as we're watching the movie, and I just saw that Onaka in the script, when he addresses the berserkers, he was supposed to call them fat asses.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And again, this scene is not in the script.
Oh yeah, it's a reshoot because you gotta get more killing from Decker.
Yeah, that makes sense. In fact, after that scene, "Don't Look," it was supposed to cut away to Peliquin and Shinasashi in their bedroom.
Yeah.
And then there would be that conversation that they would have.
But Decker investigating and killing people, and when he's done investigating, isn't really his MO. I mean, if you think about he likes going into families' houses at night and killing them all.
Yeah. I guess here it was just because he expected Laurie to come back there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was trying to get Laurie.
Yeah, but killing everybody in the hotel doesn't really. I mean, it seems like he's really ramped up his operation.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and after that scene with Shunasasi and Pelican, it was supposed to just cut to Laurie and Boone at the Sweetgrass Inn. So that whole scene with the hotel clerk, that's not part of this. That was a reshoot. Funny thing is, those two guys in this room that have been slaughtered making a card castle, I think that's supposed to be Craig Spector and John Skip.
Oh, okay.
Splatterpunk writers.
And they got made up into Nightbreed that weren't actually used in the movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Just like Peter Atkins was also supposed to be part of a trio called the Cycle Slut Sisters.
Yeah.
You could find some of that footage in clivebarker.info on Anatomy of a Scene, Nightbreed.
Somebody actually went to the trouble to make this card castle. I don't know if you've ever tried to do that, but it's really, really hard.
I've tried making a card castle, and I think I've succeeded, but never that big.
Yeah, that's huge.
Huh.
Can you imagine? I mean, all the stuff they had to do in this scene, and nobody could disturb that card castle until it's time to knock it over.
Maybe they had two. One of them was like glued together.
Yeah.
Because that would have helped a lot. That makeup is really awesome in this profile scene here.
Yeah. I'm just coming up to it right now.
What is it? I don't want you to see. Get out. I'm not going to leave you.
Yeah.
That's a great shot with the glowing eyes.
Yeah. And those ridiculous Buffalo Days hats. Yeah, and his makeup, with all the spirals and stuff, is so much clearer now in high definition.
Uh-huh. I think Clive took inspiration from some Maori tribe face carvings, scarifications.
And I think that if you hadn't read Cabal, it wouldn't be really clear that, his power is kind of the smoke that he sucks up into him, and when he releases it, he becomes, the monster. And you can kind of see it, but it's, described in the book, and here it's just kind of like something he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's also weird that Ashbury's cell was open. Why? He's just hanging out in a cell, but he can leave anytime he wants.
I guess. This scene was reversed, I think.
Yeah.
Was mirrored when they did the director's cut, which kind of was supposed to fix a problem with the continuity of it, but I think it just added more problems to it.
Because you're not supposed to turn the camera around 180 degrees because it's jarring. It's like a rule of filmmaking. But
but then now like everything is mirrored.
Yeah, it seems like the solution is worse than the problem.
Yeah, like the emblems on their jackets and shirts are now completely reversed.
Yeah, so they've got mirror writing on them.
It just feels unnatural now because you're used to seeing it the other way.
Yeah.
So you're like, that doesn't look good. Looks like something's off.
Yeah.
Also, damn, Ashbury, cut your nails, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Malcolm
hard to
Smith,
do.
Yeah. Malcolm Smith, around this time, was Clive's boyfriend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I got to meet with him at the screening in Portland, Oregon, and he almost agreed to come on the podcast, but he changed his mind later.
Okay. Sure he does.
Yeah.
Igerman. I think there's some sort of symbolism in the name. I love Sid Haig here.
Yeah.
Before this, I think I was used to seeing him in Hill Street Blues.
Oh, yeah.
Played Renko. It was a big hit in Portugal.
This doctor gets no respect.
Well, obviously the doctor would probably think that there was something wrong with his stethoscope
Yeah.
because he's not dead. Obviously, he just leaves the stethoscope behind too.
Yeah. Yeah, because he touched a corpse with it.
Yeah.
I didn't notice it says "fuck" on the wall there.
Oh, I didn't notice it.
It's scratched into the cell.
Sounds like that. Is this the same error shut down at me 4 days ago?
I think this is hilarious that Eigerman didn't know about Boone being shot in the cemetery.
Yeah, right. I mean, you'd imagine he'd know about it. I mean, it happened right at his doorstep.
Yeah, I think it's deliberate, like he's just incompetent, but it's funny. He's so full of himself that he doesn't ever need to do any research.
There's another commentary track made by Andrew Furtado and Mark Miller for this director's cut, and it's really funny because in it you hear like anecdotes, little things that they started doing with each other when they were editing this.
Yeah.
One of them was they were making fun of that line from Eigerman, like, "What are you talking about?" Like from the press conference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they were like constantly saying that to each other when they were editing the movie. Also, at one point they had no pants on, but that's a different story.
Right. I don't remember that guy.
Yeah, I don't remember this guy. The guy with the messed up blackface.
Yeah, exactly, and the weird pointy nose that pointed off to one side.
It could have been a new edition.
Yeah.
I always thought that the theatrical cut transfer was always very dark. I don't know if you noticed that, but
Oh, on the new Blu-ray?
no, on the DVD.
Oh, the old one, yeah. Yeah, it was muddy.
Yeah. Onaka's tattoos were supposed to have been done by angels.
Yeah.
If you read the Nightbreed Chronicles, he was born like that. Tattooed by angels while he was still in his mother's womb. That's really good special effects.
And then the son killed him because the angels were jealous of him and didn't want anyone to see him in the sunlight or something like that.
Yeah, they didn't want anybody to know that they had done that, so they
Yeah.
made him like the sunlight would kill him. That just adds so much more to the story when you read the Nightbreed Chronicles.
It's really interesting too because you know, I think in Cabal it was more that they were all just different types of different breeds of people that they weren't human. They were other types of people.
Yeah, the remnants of the great tribes.
Yeah. But most of the explanations in the Nightbreed Chronicles are all just different people that had weird stuff happen to them.
Sure, like Kinski, for example.
Yeah.
He took some sort of like filter or some sort of like potion that made his flesh moldable, and then he just got into fugue state and he molded himself while he was looking at the moon, and that's why his face looks like the moon.
Which is also what happened to Mac tonight.
Yeah. That Tonight was popular in commercials for, was it McDonald's?
Yeah.
Yeah. They torched our car, lousy freaks.
Yeah.
Luckily, the radio still works, even though the battery is probably burning up along with the engine.
I think probably, I mean, I hate to say this, but I think probably Ashbury is kind of a weaker character in this movie because his motivation's never really very clear. I mean, it's like you kind of get the feeling that he hates the Nightbreed at the beginning and he wants to help kill them, but maybe he's just drunk or just getting bullied, and then later he sort of feels sorry for them, but then he hates them again.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I've said this before, Ashbury is a really weak character, and
Yeah.
Malcolm Smith is not a very good actor. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to say that, but it's like, for me, he's just terrible.
Yeah.
It's like, the apocalypse, it's here?
Yeah.
And it's like, dude,
Yeah, I mean, if he was in a drunk tank, he should be sobered up by now.
yeah. Oh, here's that scene with this guy, Kane.
Yeah, the garrote.
And thanks to Rob, our friend Rob Reidenauer, co-host of the podcast, he made an article about how much he liked Kane's performance in the scene, and I think that the actor who played Kane actually posted something on Facebook, right? Saying something like, "Oh yeah,
He did comments on the blog, actually.
yeah," and he was very happy that his scenes were restored, and finally that the work he did, and he had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
And he was happy that it was restored to the movie.
I think that before we only knew him as Kane because somebody yells Kane like when he gets the porcupine quills in his face. In the past.
Yeah. So this Sons of the Free was supposed to be this militia thing, right?
Yeah.
Like the not just the sheer neck police. They would have like a...
Right, yeah, it's sort of an extracurricular thing.
A militia arsenal thing.
It's amazing that the police would be involved in that.
Yeah.
And it really seems like more of an American stereotype than Canadian, but...
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, right, I keep forgetting that this is supposed to be in Canada.
Yeah. So that voice was Vicky Barker.
Right. Sweet looking ride there.
No
No
problem. And then in the book, he shot himself in the foot right there, and I think he did in the movie too, but they just don't put any attention on it. Right when he flies back and his gun goes off, and he lands on that bench. I think he did shoot himself in the foot.
Probably.
Yeah. And Boone's like, I don't care whether I get rescued or not.
People seem to enjoy that scene, I love a coward, a lot.
Yeah.
I remember there used to be like a YouTube video just with that one scene.
It's kind of crazy that this cop would shoot at smoke.
Mm-hmm. And do you remember seeing that insert where the smoke is just swirling out of the keyhole there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. I think it just came under the door, didn't it, in the theatrical cut?
I think so, yeah. That's what I was remembering.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to start talking more because I was just getting enthralled by the movie again. Yeah, it's easy to get sucked in a movie that you like,
Yeah. It's fun to do these for the good movies. We did like a good 10 of them that were bad movies.
So it says right here in the Dark Fantastic that Clive met actor Malcolm Smith at a dinner party in Los Angeles during the film's pre-production. So I guess that's how he got in the movie. Yes.
Well, and I guess probably with the original ending, this in this director's cut that Ashbury is supposed to be the villain that comes back later. Probably, rightfully, the producers weren't really excited about that.
Yeah, I could see that.
If Malcolm's not that great of a character, I mean, Ashbury's not a great character in this movie because of the portrayal.
No time for hoochie coochie.
Yeah. Right, and but there was time for it in the book. Apparently,
there was, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the police station only had 2 police officers.
Yeah, everybody else was in the Sons of the Free.
What if a cat got trapped on top of a tree?
Yeah, yeah. I think the fire department maybe is supposed to deal with that.
Yeah. Again, like you said, it's like I don't understand the motivation for Ashbury. It seems like he thinks that the Nightbreed are demonic in some way, so he's coming in with God on his side.
But he says he doesn't believe in the devil, so it's like
maybe he thinks that this is a sign of the apocalypse.
Yeah, it's really strange. I mean, what is he even doing here other than maybe Eigerman bullied him into it?
Blessing the guns or something.
Yeah, I mean, in the book, Uh, they were. I didn't notice that before, that they were shooting up that little globe for no reason.
Oh yeah. There's several different designs for the gates of Midian on the making of the film book, where you can see different, like, one was supposed to be a globe, the other was supposed to be like a demon sitting on top of a planet, and stuff like that.
No, you're not listening. It's wrong. It's sacrilege. This is holy ground.
So why is he saying this is holy ground?
Because it's a cemetery.
Oh,
It's supposed to be consecrated ground, right?
yeah.
That's why in the old days, when someone committed suicide, they wouldn't allow them to be buried in a cemetery, because it was considered hallowed ground, and suicides weren't supposed to be buried in hallowed ground.
Yeah. So
The thing is, Midian was supposed to be the cemetery of a separate city called Midian. That was just a cemetery.
Yeah.
It was like a gold rush place.
Right, Midian wasn't a cemetery name. It was just, that was the cemetery by the town of Midian. That was a ghost town.
Yeah. You could have given them a little more notice.
Yeah. I got in an accident when I was a kid because somebody told me, "Turn right now!" And I ran into the guardrail.
Oh no. Yeah, you're not supposed to put stress or pressure on someone when they're driving.
Yeah.
That's not the right way to do it. And again, here in the Cabal cut, there was supposed to be a minor scene where the mask was talking to Decker.
And the editors here, Mark and Andrew, just made the editorial decision to let Joyce die, because there's a whole other sequence where Joyce lives and finds Laurie and gives her back to her mom.
Yeah, and rescues Babette.
Yeah, that's what I meant, is Babette, not Laurie. Yeah, he rescues Babette, and
But then he disappears, and there's no ending to his arc, so he just kind of disappears after that scene.
Yeah.
At least here he has more of a definitive ending to his arc.
And they had a good point. I mean, there are conflicting story threads that they have to pick one, and they can't. You just can't have everything.
Yeah. I'm trying to look at the editor's journal from Andrew Furtado to see if there was anything about Joyce.
Oh, yeah. I think when we had Andrew Furtado on the podcast, he told us about that they couldn't have Joyce live, because then Laurie wouldn't be the one that brings Babette back to her mother.
Here are some tips that Clive Barker gave him. He had some suggestions like Eigerman and Ashbury. Let's come in on Eigerman much later. Keep him moving. No stop and go. Just get him to Ashbury already. Then fix the queue where Ashbury turns. The delay is huge. So I guess these were like little things that Clive was noticing in the movie, and for people like us, we don't even notice that.
Right. So
he says also, very important, they got the explosion destruction of Midian all wrong. They just arbitrarily went through places and we see them exploding. Let's tell a story with the explosions, which is from an upcoming scene.
Oh, that's cool. Now we're back to Doug Bradley's voice. Actually, the acting is better with Doug's voice, even though he dubbed it over.
Yeah, the only thing I think is that the voice is missing some sort of effect to make it seem like he's inside a big cave.
Yeah.
Because the voice is coming off like it's just some guy yelling inside a room, which was actually what they did.
Yeah, that's true. But it seemed like there was no real emotion in the German guy's voice.
Yeah.
And he was kind of desperate for everybody to listen to him with this sort of new interpretation.
Oh, I agree that Doug Bradley's voice has a lot more emotion to it. Yeah.
so it makes Lylesburg a better character than he was in the theatrical version.
Some of the early drafts have some really funny moments during the assault on Midian. Like there's a Son of the Free with a blonde woman. They go into a car to have sex, and then one of the berserkers shows up and he just lifts up the car or pulls him out of the car or something. And it's like, who the hell would want to get some nookie in the middle of a genocide?
I know.
But it was definitely written as kind of like a B movie in some ways, especially having like a whole music act in the middle.
I was glad they put this scene back in of using the coffins as weapons, because it just shows how desperate they are, that they've got nothing, to fight with. They
seem a little useless, though, don't they? The Nightbreed. Yeah. At some point, it's
they take those things, but you don't see them actually fighting with them.
Yeah, there's some of these people. They're not old; they're just young people. They look like they're able-bodied to fight, and they just stand there like sheep.
Yeah, and I think in Nightbreed there was a little bit of a missed opportunity to show Peliquin fighting, because really all he does is get hit by a car.
Yeah, that's right.
He's kind of the Boba Fett of.
Yeah, Nightbreed. Like Boba Fett just dies in Return of the Jedi.
And Boba Fett is really cool, and everybody thinks he's this badass, but he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, mostly just strikes poses and stuff.
Yeah.
At least in the original movies. Then the prequels, they gave him more stuff to do.
Yeah, well, that's Jango Fett.
And speaking of Star Wars, I'm glad they didn't go overboard with this movie. I guess the lack of budget kind of helped them not tinker too much digitally with the movie.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no, like, special effects being altered dramatically here. Which is a good thing. Yeah,
it is a good thing.
I would hate to have Laurie walk past Jar Jar Binks in the middle of Midian.
Yeah, right. The temptation would be there to create new Nightbreed and have stuff walking around in the background.
Even though they do have, like, those reused stop-motion animation scenes. Again, they didn't put more into the movie because I think they slashed the budget.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, okay, we don't have budget for stop-motion animation anymore. I think they were made by Rory Fellows.
Yeah, right.
The guy who was working on the miniatures.
Do you think that the bloodlust from these characters is unrealistic? I kind of, it's like, why would somebody see a woman and a little girl and say, "My lucky day! I can't wait to kill this little toddler"?
Oh yeah, yeah. They go a little overboard.
Yeah.
But I always took Nightbreed to be kind of more like a fable of sorts.
Yeah. So that's the last you see of Eigerman in the theatrical cut, right? He gets kicked and he falls down, and then he's out of the movie after that. But at least now we have. In this version, we have some closure with him.
Mm-hmm. There's, of course, for people who only saw the theatrical cut, I'm sure this might be blowing their minds right now, because it's going to be completely different in the third act. I mean, there's a lot of differences. Not completely, but there's a lot of differences in the third act of the movie.
Yeah. Well, in the first version of the Cabal cut that I saw, this Midian battle was 45 minutes long, and it was really just a slaughter. It was a sort of a holocaust.
Yeah, there were like you would see these Sons of the Free standing on top of like an overpass or a bridge or something, just shooting people like shooting ducks in a barrel.
Yeah, and it was. It was a completely different tone, and I think that people complained about it, and Russell and Jimmy Johnson ended up changing the scene to make it shorter and more punchier, and I don't know, I appreciated the tone of that, even though it was long, it was a little hard to watch, but I think deliberately that adds impact to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's meant to make the audience feel sorry for the Nightbreed. Although I do believe that they shot a lot more footage than they intended to use, so they would have more freedom to edit it as they saw fit.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, there were several death scenes for the same character, for example, and sometimes they were different.
Yeah.
There were like
So
some
now
of
we're
the
back to the German guy's voice again.
yeah.
I think because they used a different take in the Cabal cut than this is the theatrical cut version.
Yeah. Well, I do have that Midian key right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it from Prop Store of London, I think.
So yeah, it's like now that we know that Lude and Leroy Gom were reshoots, it makes total sense that these do feel separately like tacked on parts of this battle.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody else around them. They're fighting these individual guys.
The release of the Berserkers is, I understand why they do it. I just don't understand how that would help the Nightbreed.
Well, the
Because it
Nightbreed know
seems-
to get out of their way, and the people.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's what they were counting on.
Yeah.
No, I always thought that Demon Lude had a really cool jacket in this movie.
Yeah. It's like a satin jacket. It'd be hard
Yeah.
to keep that nice in Midian, though.
Sure.
So that thing bite his face off? I mean, it looked like it was implied, but it didn't really.
Like it was taking out his eyes or something.
Yeah.
So Leroy Gom came from a family of eel jugglers.
Oh, really? Eel
Yes.
jugglers?
Yes,
Cool.
that's what happened. That's what was written in Nightbreed Chronicles.
Who would pay to see eel juggling?
Hey, who would pay to see a bearded lady?
Boone is really lucky that they just stood there in front of him. They could have just run up and ripped his head off.
I still remember being surprised by the fact that those slits on Lyle's bird face opened up to become eyes in
Yeah.
his death scene.
Yeah. I thought that
was really clever.
That was cool.
Yeah.
So, because you spend the movie wondering what's the deal with those slits on his face.
Right. At first I thought they might be gills or something.
Yeah.
but-
It's
Yeah,
kind of a
little trivia.
subtle. Yeah.
Ghost, the White Berserker, was played in some scenes by Nicholas Vince, who played the Chatterer in Hellraiser.
This is kind of weird that, well, some people don't know that that's a man playing that woman, but it's kind of weird that she would do that, kneel down and grab the blood off of that guy when there's berserkers are right there, could easily just kill her too.
I thought that was weird too, but after I discovered this week that there's a rite of passage for hunters where they stick their fingers in like the wound of their first kill and smear it in their face, and then they bite the liver or the heart of the animal.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, that doesn't seem too different,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Little John.
Yeah. Oh, I was wrong. This is Eigerman's last scene in the theatrical cut, right?
Yeah, you cowards.
Yeah. So that's the couple that were having sex in the car, but they skipped that part in the.
This scene is the last scene of Eigerman in the theatrical cut, though.
Yeah, right. He just runs off, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not, that was a poor choice, I think, from Mark Goldblatt.
Yeah, because, I know... Oh, you see the blonde girl and the guy in the car? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you were talking about, right.
Yeah. They were the couple having sex, which makes sense, because what were they doing
Yeah.
in there?
Right. I was a little behind. I don't know
okay.
why. I mean, we're watching the same Blu-ray, but for some reason it's...
Yeah.
I always wanted to know more about the prophecy.
Yeah. I forget, what is the origin of the seven saviors, or that Boone is the seventh savior? That didn't just come from the comics, right? That came from something from Clive Barker, didn't it?
I think that was implied when Lylesburg is telling Boone he can't go upstairs to rescue Laurie.
No.
They're standing in a room that has 6 different white
Oh.
busts around Baphomet.
Okay.
You remember that?
Yeah.
But I don't remember where the idea of the sixth savior came from,
Yeah.
or the seven saviors. I think it came from the comic books.
So there was another editorial choice here that they skipped over the scene with Narcisse getting his head cut off. So they just go to they just skip right to Decker having Narcisse's head on a knife.
Yeah, but in the Cabal cut, I think we saw that, right?
Yeah, we saw him cut his head off.
Mm-hmm. It was a very abrupt cut, though. I'm talking about the cut in terms of editing, not the head cut.
Right, yeah, it was... and we don't know what it would have looked like in high definition.
Again, I guess there were plenty of footage in the Cabal cut that they couldn't find in good quality when they found those 300 boxes of, elements that were, in a storage space.
Yeah.
So they made that choice that, okay, since we have all this good footage... let's not use any of the bad VHS footage.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that Decker would run up to him when he's got that knife sticking out of his chest. He runs up and tries to get really close, like 3 times.
Yeah.
And then that's, of course, the end of him right now.
My question is, why does that seem to affect Boone for a moment when afterwards he walks around with that thing coming out of his back?
Yeah, I guess it just hurts.
Like it's nothing.
Yeah, it hurts to get stabbed. And it hurts to pull it out again. I don't know.
And I always prefer the idea that Decker should stay dead.
In the theatrical cut, did he spit on Decker? I don't think so. Right? That was just...
I think I remember that. I think I do remember that, I think.
Well, you could see the
so
spit
dark
on his face in high definition.
Yeah, but because the DVD is so dark, you can't really see it. Also, did you get the idea that he gets impaled on that stick, and that's the same hole that Ashbury will put his hand into?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I thought it was just from all the stab wounds. But
that could be it, too, yeah. And that's the Ace of Spades on his chest there. The Ace of Hearts, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because it's on his heart.
I like this idea that he needs to go talk to Baphomet.
Yeah. I think when he says, "You have destroyed our refuge," you should say, "Actually, I think it was kind of Narcisse's fault."
Yeah. Hey, maybe you should have put your refuge in a mountain or something.
And this is cool. We get to see a little bit of the characters wrapping up the body parts in cloth. I mean, although I don't think you understand... I mean, if you hadn't read the book, you wouldn't understand that's what was happening right now.
Oh, and that lightning that strikes when they're walking past that arch.
Yeah.
Was that in the theatrical? I don't think I remember seeing that.
I think that's new, because it doesn't look like the same kind of effect that is on Baphomet right now.
Right.
It looks like more of a digital effect.
I love the new Nightbreed that they added to this scene where they're wrapping the things.
Yeah.
And Baphomet was played by Bernard Henry.
Yeah.
Not really sure what else did he do because IMDb doesn't really list him doing anything else.
So now he's got that Cabal mark on his forehead, which that's not in the theatrical cut at all, right? That the new, Cabal mark.
I'm not sure if that's added later, like digitally, or if that was something that became more visible thanks to...
I think it's just that those scenes with that are missing, right? Like, this is not in the theatrical cut at all.
It's possible, but I think
this scene is totally different from the theatrical cut.
Yeah, because after he falls in the theatrical, it just cuts to the Midian is like rumbling and stuff, and they're just running up the stairs immediately. So
we don't get to ever really find out what his new powers are with that Cabal thing on his head, and maybe he could do new things. We don't really know. We don't get to find out.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point because he already transformed himself, but we don't know exactly what new powers he was supposed to have. Maybe he was just like another kind of anointment, like, hey, now you're the leader.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, maybe.
In the comic book, there were different powers that Laurie would get as well, and the story would continue on the Hellraiser version of the Nightbreed comics.
And in the theatrical cut, Baphomet didn't like scowl at him like he did in this one, and
No, that was added for this cut.
They made
that was one of the pieces they saw.
They made it obvious that Baphomet did that to him on purpose. Where in the theatrical cut it could have just been a screw up by Ashbury.
In the theatrical, it seems like Ashbury kind of slams his hand on it and it just splashes back on him.
Right, yeah, that's what I had thought too, that he was, he just kind of screwed up.
Yeah. And they had to do this thing in one take because all that, the archway falling and all that stuff in the inner chamber, I guess they only had one time to do it.
So they must have had a lot of cameras set up.
Yeah. These were all miniatures, though.
Yeah.
These sets are just miniatures, and those are like
and then
fireworks.
That fire is probably in slow motion.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of good miniature work done for this movie.
Yeah. Oh, and matte paintings, too.
Mm-hmm. And they also put a new insert there when they escape.
Oh, yeah, right. That was that Christian Francis's?
I'm not sure. I think I'm thinking about something else, but it's okay. This is totally new.
Yeah. Well, and we had seen this in the Cabal cut, but it was amazing to see this, in high definition with the, most of the color was gone out of the old VHS tapes and stuff.
They were inspired by a scene in Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Because you see that they're on top of this kind of like ridge, and there's like that obvious fake background, but looks great nonetheless.
Yeah.
Very well lit. It looks like that they see the glow from the burning city, and it kind of reminds you of that scene in Gone with the Wind where there's like I'll never be hungry again.
Yeah, and that was where Russell got quoted a lot when he restored this in the Cabal cut, that it's Gone with the Wind with monsters.
Yeah, he used that line all the time. I wish we had more stuff in the movie, like the werewolf who was supposed to be Babette's dad. I wish we could have seen more of him.
Yeah, Toledo. I think that was something that they had to cut out because that's right. Yeah, they had to cut that out because it was in Joyce's storyline, and the choice to kill off Joyce meant that they had to do that too.
Yeah.
So I wonder
Joyce would find Babette standing by the body of her dead father, and he would pick her up and take her to Laurie.
I wonder what feminist critics would say about Laurie's like, if you're going to leave me, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah, it's not a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
But in the book, they don't have a very healthy relationship to begin with.
No.
It's very dependent, and I guess here it's played more for romantic, kind of a weird. Twisted romantic value, because it's like, if you're not going to be with me, I'm going to kill myself.
Well,
but she doesn't want to die. It's more of a way of pressuring him into giving her the bite that will extend her life.
Right. Yeah, and you can't. There's no analog to that in the real world, but.
Right. It's kind of like the woman deciding to stay with Dracula in Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. When Winona Ryder tells Dracula, "Take me away from all this life."
Yeah.
Great shot. This movie still holds up really well, even though this movie still has a few issues here and there, but they really did a good job fixing it. For the most part.
Yeah. Well, and now Laurie can stink like Boone.
Yeah.
Christ, she stinks.
Yeah, that's right. When they grab him at this sweetgrass inn, that's what they say. Little known bit of trivia that Ann Bobby revealed to us in our interview was that initially they toyed around with the idea of making her face get some markings similar to Boone after he bites her. And I guess they must have thought about it or tried something, but it didn't work very well, so they just didn't do it.
Well, I think she couldn't stand being under the makeup chair.
Right. It's a very strange makeup design they picked
Yeah,
for.
he's got like a brain on the back of his skull.
Yeah, like these weird ridges, and his head is like all misshapen now. I think that the special effects guy who did the makeup, he wasn't very happy with it.
Mm.
I think he said something in the special features that he made the makeup, but someone else applied it, and then he heard from the person who applied it that they didn't like the makeup very much.
Oh.
And I think the person who made the makeup was a younger effects artist at the time, and he was like, "Oh."
So they were looking at some corpse, and they focused on it for a second, and it looked like an old lady with like an old lady hat, but I didn't understand what that was.
I always thought it was just some sort of weird altar that he had done.
Oh, maybe.
It's like Ashbury turns into like this personification of death almost, like Decker.
Who's that blue guy with the white pants on the right?
He appears in one of the scenes, I think. He has this weird looking hair that looks almost like tentacles.
Oh, okay.
And there's this one here, the yellow chick. The girl with the blue hair there that showed up for a moment was Stephen Jones's sister.
And Nicholas Vince gets his own real voice in this scene, and so does Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
I love this scene. That ending with the. I think it's so much better than the theatrical ending.
But so the big difference in this scene is that to me it looks like in the theatrical, Boone is right there with them in front of the barn, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking about cease and stuff. But in this one, it makes me think that Laurie and Boone were on another place, not too far from them, but they're separate from the breed that are in the barn. I don't know if you get that vibe from this.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're waiting for him to come back, but they don't know they don't know where he is, right? I mean,
yeah. And here's this beautiful message at the end: "My love and thanks to Mark Miller and all those who have made this happy reunion possible." Clive Barker. Well, I guess we can count ourselves as part of the people that he's kind of thanking here. So it's heartwarming.
It's amazing to think about all the, everything that everybody went through for, to make this happen. I don't know that there was. I mean, maybe we're just ignorant about it, but it doesn't seem like there's ever been another movie that went through something like this.
Yeah, now that I think about it, maybe Blade Runner went through when they made the final cut.
Oh.
They had to re-edit the movie quite a bit and refresh special effects.
I don't even understand what the deal is with Blade Runner. Like, which one does the director like? There's so many cuts of that movie.
Yeah, I think that nowadays it's the final cut. That's the one that Ridley Scott thinks is the best.
And that's
even though he made a compromised director's cut back in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, where they took out all the narration.
The voiceover, yeah. So, but for better or worse, now this is the director's cut, and I think it's for the better. So I also love what they did with the final credits here, with the ending credits, where they got this footage from the Wall of Prophecy and they kind of slowed it down and added it to the end credits.
That was the part that Christian Francis did, right?
I think he did the last illustration that appears when they cut from Boone and Laurie on the top of the hill to the image of them in the Wall of Prophecy.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
That image was constructed by him using pieces of the Wall of Prophecy footage that they had. And he kind of photoshopped it in and kind of made that.
And I think he had done that as a sort of a rough idea and said, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And then he expected them to come back and say, "Oh yeah, can you make a high definition final version of that?" And then by the time he knew it, they had put it into the movie. Yeah.
Here's
But I think it looks great.
From Clive Barker's notes, handwritten notes to Andrew Furtado. Here's one that said, lose the mural, just fade to black over Laurie and Boone, hold for a beat, Then fade in a note from Clive over the blackness. My love and thanks to Mark Miller and all those who made this happy reunion possible. Clive Barker. And then it says, fade that out, and then fade in and run credits over the mural, which should play out in slow motion over the La 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 song that's already there. Then fade that out when the shot ends and just get into the credits. And
That's
at
cool.
the very end, let's go into Johnny Get Angry instead of the country song at the end credits,
Wow.
which was that Second Skin or something.
Yeah, right. Or
Country
the
version.
Country Skin.
Yeah, Country Skin. It was Oingo Boingo music, right? Originally.
So, yeah.
And then they did like a country cover of it.
I only knew the Nightbreed soundtrack version, but
Yeah, gotcha. So yeah, that was Nightbreed. A great experience.
yeah.
It was Matte Effects by Westbury Design and Optical. Cliff Cully was the matte artist. He made all those glass paintings.
And I guess technically Occupy Midian's not done because we still want this movie to be put out in other regions. We sort of, and people complain to us and blame us because, it's like, oh, everybody's happy because they got what they want in the United States. But
Right.
we don't, nobody can give a definitive answer about who to talk to or, if these people have any plans or could ever be persuaded or...
Yeah, just speaking as a personal note for myself, and I guess you probably can subscribe to that, is that we're not involved in the process here. We were only like people who helped out in whatever way we could without any major compensation. We did this. We weren't paid for Occupy Midian. We were just doing it out of being fans.
I think we got into some conventions without having to pay.
I think I got into the screening at Burlingame, California. I got into that with Russell, and I was there in the room with him and Bobby and Maureen, our friend Maureen.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out there in a giant room, just talking to them and helping set things together. You also got in a few conventions where you were like manning the booth a little bit.
At the one with the Hellraiser reunion and Monster Mania in New Jersey.
Yeah. Hey, funny thing here, special effects makeup assistant Chet Zar. Chet Zar was one of the creators of the Darkman makeup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Darkman was right around this time, right? Or maybe like the next year after. I thought it was like 91.
Yeah, sure. I can look that up real quick. Darkman is... Darkman.
And that's Sam Raimi, right?
I think so. Darkman. 1990. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So really, he just went straight from this movie onto that one.
And we got special thanks to Cyril Howard, Brian Wynn, Robin O'Donoghue, Craig Spector, John Skipp, Peter Atkins. So there's a lot of people there.
Film restoration credits.
Yeah. Russell Charrington was at one point named by Clive Barker as being a restoration director, but I guess at the end that didn't really happen.
Yeah.
Which is,
And digital painter Christian Francis, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And here's my name there. I'm 2 down from Russell Charrington, and you are you on the next page?
Yeah, where they messed up my name.
Yeah, with a U in it. Yeah, there it is.
So that was pretty cool. And it got a Saturn Award, where Michael Clematis and Mark Miller received a Saturn Award for this edition.
Yay!
And visual playback, Steph Sciullo, and she's Doug Bradley's partner.
Yeah.
So
I gotta take a look. I can't remember what our next one is.
we got some names from regulars at Occupy Midian, like Kip Chinkowski, Colin Lakativa.
Right, yeah, because they asked us for a list.
Yeah, that's right.
So
and these
Lord of
people,
Illusions will be
really
next.
Big regulars at Occupy Midian. At one point, Colin said that he would shave his head if we would get like 10,000 signatures.
Was that a piano?
A piano?
Yeah, it sounded like you ran into a piano or something.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was just I touched the support of my microphone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it made a piano chord sound. You can find the show notes for this page and lots of Clive Barker news and features at www.clivebarkercast.com. Leave comments there or get them directly into the podcast by clicking the Send Voicemail tab on the right. Please follow us on Twitter at BarkerCast or at Occupy Midian. Like us on Facebook and join the Occupy Midian Facebook group. You can listen on the site or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, TuneIn, Pocket Cast, Google Play, and Double Twist. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Please take a couple of minutes to leave us a review on iTunes. It means the world to us and helps us spread the word about Clive Barker. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial fan site and podcast that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Films. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.